These are all things that we have
Yeah.
evolved as human beings to keep us physically safe in a world that wants to eat us. Right. The more you start following these things, it really is amazing how stuff will just sort of open up for you. The thing I tell people the most is you can't wait for it to happen. You have to take small, actionable steps.
Are
I'm
they
happy to
doing?
be here with you.
Yay! I'm so happy you are. I thought it was really cool when you were like doing your lives and you were like, I want to be on somebody's podcast. I'm like, we could do that.
Yeah, I want to be on podcasts, but I want to start a podcast is what I was talking about. I have two friends, Gina and Bree, and we're talking about putting one together. So I'm really excited about it. I got a lot of stuff kind of in the works, in the pipeline, you know. It's just
Hmm.
going to take a hot second for it to get here, but that's okay.
That's really cool. Do you want to talk about some of the things that you have coming down the pipeline?
Yeah. So I started working on, so my ultimate dream is I would love to see something like a metaphysical university where you go to one place and you can learn about mediumship, numerology, whatever it is, all in one place. And because my background is in education and science, I started just sort of putting that together. So, what I'm working on right now is building an online university. Um,
Very
it's
cool.
going to take some time, but I don't know where I put the paper, but it's called the Veritas University, and it's going to have several different tracks of study. So the one that I'm working on is energetic alchemy, and there will be 5 classes involved for each track of study. You go through these just like a university course. If you say, I want to get my certificate in energy alchemy, you take these 5 courses, and at the end, you have your certificate. Um, right now, what I'm doing is I'm building out those courses. I also am still writing a lot of articles for my Patreon channel. I post articles once a week that connect science and spirituality, trying to bridge the gap. And I still do my live readings. I'm working on a lot. There's a lot. The podcast that I want to do with my friends is coming into play. I mean, there's just a lot that's kind of moving its way around, you know?
It's very cool. One of the things I love about you is how you receive inspiration and take action on it. I mean, you don't just sort of like go, oh yeah, that's a nice idea. You're like, wait a minute, that's a really good idea. Boom, 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 boom. And it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, for me, that was a mind switch. I used to think, so if I had an idea before, I want to build an online university, I would start at the other end. How do I get the university going? And I would be diving into the technical components and trying to figure it all out. I always would tackle from the hardest end first. And what I've
Hmm.
noticed is if I can allow myself to just go with the inspiration, the hard part seems to work itself out. So, like with
Uh-huh.
these classes, what I'm doing is I'm going to build the class and allow myself to just work on the thing I'm passionate about. And the person that can host that, build the site or whatever will find me.
Yeah.
I'm trusting that. But the actionable steps are I'm starting to outline the classes and write up the material. And I have created a textbook for it. Like I've done all this stuff. Eventually it'll get me where I want to go. But I think where a lot of people get caught up is they feel like they have to solve all of the problems before they can work on the creative part. And from my personal experience, it's very opposite of that. You want to work on the creative part, and then the technical stuff will solve itself a lot of the time. It'll at least arrange itself in a way that's conducive to helping you solve it anyway.
Hmm. Hmm. Things will come into play. All of a sudden, pieces will mesh and gears will roll forward. Yeah, that's very cool.
Well, just talking about it on my live, on TikTok, I talked about it on my TikTok once, and I had someone reach out and email me and say, hey, I can help you build this. I know how to work these platforms. When you're ready, reach out to me. Same idea. One day I said I wanted to, start hosting retreats. I have the material, but I don't have the means or the know-how on the technical part. I had someone reach out and say, hey, I used to host retreats before COVID and I want to get back into it. Maybe we can work together on that. So I really am seeing demonstrated in my own life, the more you just follow the passion, the easier it tends to work out. I think we make it very hard on ourselves and we don't need to.
Hmm. Hmm. So I do two things. I do spiritual coaching and healing, and I also do marketing. And part of what, like one of my current clients, a project I was working on this morning, is helping people to set up their courses. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about today is, how did you make the switch from teaching and nursing?
Yeah.
You were in the
I was,
medical field,
yeah.
and kind of a corporate-ish, in some senses, environment. I really want to encourage women to find their way from a job where they felt like they were doing the right things, they were providing for their family, they followed all the steps, they did the good girl thing, but it's not working for them, and they're trying to figure out their next steps. What were some of the nudges that helped you to go from, or to realize maybe it was time?
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
usually it's a process, but I know,
It is a
I
huge
know,
process.
yeah.
Yeah. So when I had my awakening experience, I was teaching at a university that teaches medicine, an advanced education institution, and I was working in healthcare simulation. Up until that point, like you point out, I was very medicine oriented. I was a nurse for 25 years, teaching medicine. I was on a PhD track. I was really working towards medicine. Had my awakening experience. And it was a really odd feeling because once that happened to me, I would go into my job that I did very much love, but I didn't feel like I resonated with it anymore. I felt like I was trying to force myself to teach these things and I wanted to add and change things and I just couldn't. Um, that realization happened about a year before I actually left. So I had that realization and I started to think to myself, well, realistically speaking, I can't not have a job, right? And I need to be able to support myself. So I started asking, what is it that I actually do want to do? And for me, that looks like working with clients, reading cards. I'm a life coach. There's a lot of things I do that I wanted to move more in the direction of. So I started just slowly planning it out. What would it look like if I was going to spend a whole day doing this? And then I had a bunch of PTO because I never took time off. So one week, 6 months later, after I'd been thinking about this, I took a week off and I told myself, during this week, I'm going to run my week just exactly like I would if I was living this as my life, like a test run. I kept
Oh,
track of
that's really
everything.
cool.
I kept track of how many clients I saw, how I felt at the end of the day. I literally kept track of everything. And at the end of the week, I sat down and compared what I would have done in a week at my traditional job versus what I did in the week at home. And how did I feel after each one? And for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was incredibly clear that I was a happier person when I was working on this. So now the next step becomes, how do I untangle myself from the university and establish a practice that will support me? And that was,
Mm-hmm.
again, just very slow. I would start going live on times when I had extra time, or I would go live at night when I was at home. I just started putting my name out there, building the bridges. At my professional job, I slowly started to give away projects. Didn't talk to anybody about it, but the way my job worked, I could do that. So some of the smaller projects I had, I would sort of silently hand them off to someone else. And then I stopped taking on new projects. And over 6 months' time, I got rid of all of my projects. I didn't take on any new projects. I literally cleared my schedule. I wrote up a plan for them on how they could train someone in this position. And then we went away for Christmas break. At a university, you get like 2.5, 3 weeks off. So when we came back from Christmas break, I turned in my notice. I gave them 3 weeks notice and I handed them this plan so that I could stay in my integrity, right? This was about me, not them. I would not have felt good if I had just left them in the lurch because it is an important job and they need someone to do this. So I gave them this plan. I said, I have 3 weeks here. I can train someone for you. I can do this for you. And because I approached it the way I did, I think my boss really appreciated that. And she gave me a lot of flexibility in those last 3 weeks. And we parted terms on a
Wow.
very good note. So I still have very good relationships with her, with people at the university. And if I ever wanted to go back there, I probably could. The thing I tell people the most is you can't wait for it to happen. You have to take small, actionable steps. People have this misconception that, yes, while alignment is easier than working on something that is not aligned, you still have to put the action in. You still have to put the work in. Faith is not passive. It's like asking the universe for a birthday cake and you get keys to a well-stocked kitchen and then you're mad you didn't get a birthday cake. Well, friend, you can go in there and make any cake you want, but you actually have to go in there and you have to pick the ingredients.
Make the cake.
Right. This
Love
is
it.
how you start to design your life, by choosing the ingredients you want rather than someone choosing them for you and handing them to you. And for a lot of people, that's a very uncomfortable place to be, because our entire lives we have been taught we don't know what's best for us. We've all been taught, ask your mom, ask your dad, ask your teacher, ask your doctor, ask the police. Never been told, ask yourself. And now you're being put in that position to ask yourself, what do you really want? And it can make us feel wildly uncomfortable because we're not used to it. But like anything else, with practice, it gets easier. And the more you start following these things, it really is amazing how stuff will just sort of open up for you. And it's not going to be a miracle. It's not going to be magical. It is real happening. And you have to give it some time, like everything, it's not going to happen overnight. I guess is the biggest thing I can say is you have to give it a little bit of, have some patience with yourself.
It's a big adjustment. It's a huge adjustment because it means that you are owning your own power and gifts of all sorts, and abilities, and that you are taking control over your life in a way that a lot of people are afraid to do because it upsets their apple cart, it upsets their world, it upsets their paradigm, their perspective on life. And it's not just about themselves. That means that they will have to see every other thing in their world a little bit, if not a lot differently.
Yeah.
And it can take a lot of energy and grounding and healing. Love that sweater, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Um, are you getting information coming in?
No,
Sometimes,
I'm
by
just
the way,
hot. I'm just hot.
special viewers, when Erin gets hot, sometimes Erin gets really hot when she's doing readings. So I didn't know if
Yeah.
something was coming through.
Well, because that whole last phrase was probably a channel, that's why I'm hot. So I'm getting the after effects of all of that in there. Yeah, that's how it works. Movement of energy produces heat. That's what it looks like. But going back to what you were saying, I think another thing that people struggle with is when you start choosing what your life is going to look like, it also requires you to take accountability for the choices that you make. And
Yes.
it's so much easier to say it was their fault. I did it because they made me. Well, now you're making your own choices. So you can't do that anymore. And that also can become very uncomfortable. But it's a huge growth tool because it helps reflect to you
Yep.
the areas where you're stuck, where you have these things. And if it isn't pointed out to you, you'll never fix it. You'll find a workaround forever.
Yep, and that's part of where some of those really good spiritual tools come in handy, because like you're demonstrating right on camera, it is physical and spiritual and mental and emotional. It is metaphysical. Metaphysical means like everything
Yes.
all in one package. You're not a hefty bag human. You are a complete, flowing everything person, being, spiritual being having a human experience. And
Yeah.
it's when you use all those tools that are available that helps to keep you grounded and process out the things you don't need anymore, like the old belief systems, and deal with maybe grief or anger, depending on your circumstances, and then process that so that you can then go flowing forward in the path that really is awesome for you.
Yeah. A lot of people in their awakening experience, I don't think they expect the side effects. You change physically, your diet changes, what you're drawn to as far as food changes, your habits change. People who, like, for example, myself, I've never been a big drinker, never been a big drinker, but I have gotten to the point now where I just don't want it at all. If I'm out somewhere and someone's hit, hey, you want a seltzer? Up until a couple months ago, I'd be, oh, sure, I'll have one. I just don't want it. I don't want anything to do with it. I'd rather drink water or nothing. And it's a very gradual change that's happened for me. And what I've noticed is the people around me who got used to the way I was before struggle with acclimating to the way I am now. And so I think we have to be careful and give grace to our friends. We are changing, and we can't expect them to change who they are just because we are changing. And it is important to recognize that there will be friendships and relationships and whatever that don't seem like they're working in that moment. The best advice I can give for people is you don't need to cut people out of your life. Just give it some space. Give it some space. Let yourself grow and settle into your space and then reach out, or give them a minute to figure out who they are and then they'll reach out. But you don't have to cut people off. But the changes that you go through will absolutely shrink your circle. It will make you want to spend more time by yourself because all of a sudden you enjoy your company, which is amazing. It's just all these changes happen. And to your point, they're very physical. You are changing from
Yeah.
a carbon-based life to a more crystalline-based life so that you can embody more light energy into your system. The more light energy you embody in your system, the less density you want in your system. Things like red meat or dairy tends to be very heavy in the system. And the more light you embody, the less of that you tend to want. And it's not that it's bad, it's not bad to eat a hamburger if you want one, but you may notice that your vibration feels off when you eat that because it's a density that you're adding. And, I've noticed not everybody goes through that, but I'd say most of the people I talk to in some fashion go through all kinds of changes that they maybe weren't expecting associated with spirituality because it's so physical in nature.
And yet, I do think that subconsciously, a lot of people do know that some of these things will happen. And that's part of why they resist it, because they know they're going to end up, there may be some sacrifices or some changes that are not easy in the beginning. They're ultimately better, but a lot of people know that it's going to change their social circles, their socializing, and that I think, part of what a different viewpoint on what you were saying is that basically it's like you're shining your light in a stronger way,
Yeah.
and it in a weird way it also mirrors, other people see themselves differently because that has
Yes.
shifted.
Yes. And you will find you trigger people more than you used to before, and you won't understand what's happening. You'll be sitting there having a conversation. All of a sudden, they're having a freak out, and you're like, hold on a minute. What's going on here? Frequency is a real thing. And when you rub up
Yeah.
against something that is not acquiescent with your frequency, it's like nails on a chalkboard sometimes. And I think that surprised a lot of people too that I've recognized. They're like, how come I used to get along great with this person? Now all of a sudden I just feel like well, you're just on a different frequency. That's all.
I think not everybody likes this perspective, but there's a little phrase that's been around for quite a while, that your light scares their demons
Oh
and they
yeah.
get angry. And so their demons will do things to separate you. And your job is to stay steady in your path, to keep your candle lit, and to keep moving forward. And sometimes that can be that time period apart until your friend figures out, wait a minute, that's somebody I love. I'll find a way.
Right. Well,
But
the best teacher is always going to be experience. So
yeah,
if you have someone in your life who really doesn't understand what you're talking about, can't understand what you're going through, the best thing you can do is stop trying to explain it to them and just live your life. Because what will
you've been doing
happen.
that with your husband for a
Yes.
few years,
Yes.
right?
Yes. My husband is not into spirituality at all. He considers
Yes.
himself an atheist. He's not, but he thinks he is. And when I first started doing this, I had to have a serious conversation with myself about I have to stop talking about this with him because I was getting frustrated that he didn't show the interest I wanted him to show. I was mad at him because he wasn't acting the way I wanted him to. So I decided I'm going to just stop talking about it. I'm going to stop talking about it. I'm just going to live my life the way I have. And the thing about him is he's very evidential in nature. He wants to see the evidence. Well, he's seeing the evidence. And because he's seeing it with his own eyes, he cannot argue with it. And so it's led him to start asking questions. What's this mean? What is that? Why do you do this? What is that? And it's great because it's allowing him to open at his own speed. He's
Yeah.
become far more curious about it, but I'm also not pushing at all. If he asks me a question, I answer just the question, and then let him process that And if he wants more information, then he'll ask me. But I think our tendency in the spiritual community is we're so
Mm,
excited. We are so
mhm,
excited. We know how
mhm,
great it is, and we want
mhm,
you to know how great it is.
mhm.
And we
Come
will
on.
word vomit everything all over people. And then they're overwhelmed and it puts them off from it. You have to let people come to
Mhm.
things on their own time. If you push too hard, it will push them away. And we don't want to do that.
Right as you were saying that, I don't know why I never thought of this before, but it's almost like having the birds and the bees conversations with kids. You start where they're ready
Yeah.
and only answer what they actually ask about. And that way, avoid
Right. Well, you don't want to perpetrate.
uncomfortableness.
Well, yes. And you don't want to perpetrate a feeling of this is going to be bad or uncomfortable. There are aspects of a
Right.
spiritual awakening that are very uncomfortable, very, very difficult to get through. When you start trying to dismantle your shadow, it is hard work. It is deep emotional digging and taking accountability for stuff that you have put on a shelf forever. And it hurts to get
Mhm,
into that. And if you come,
mhm,
if someone comes to you and you are in the middle of that, the perspective they're going to get is that it's hard, that you're suffering and all this stuff. So that's why it's best to let them come to you. When your light is shining, you will attract people to you. I've literally had people
mhm.
walk up to me, complete strangers, and ask me questions. Hey, do I know you? That's usually how it starts. Do I know you from somewhere? I'm like, well, no.
Yeah.
I go, Are you on TikTok? Do you want I'm on TikTok. You want no, I'm not on TikTok. Okay, well, are you from the same town? Nope, not from the same town. And it's always starts there. They feel connected somehow and it leads to
Mm,
a greater conversation. I had
mhm,
a guy that I didn't really know him very well, but he's like friends with someone I know at a party
mhm,
sometime. And it was a birthday party. And I went out in the backyard. It was nighttime, it was summer, and I was sort of laying on her lounge chair, just kind of looking up at the stars. And he came out there to smoke a cigarette and he sat down and sat next to me. And he started asking, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm looking at the stars." And it led to a 2.5 hour conversation where he and I sat outside, the whole party going on, he and I
yeah.
sat out there and talked about so many things. And now this man, which I see like once a year, every time I see him, he cannot wait to talk to me because I opened a door for him by allowing him to use his own curiosity to pull the door
Yeah.
open, and it's changed things. I don't want to say it changed his life because that's not what I'm saying, but it changed his perspective to allow him the opportunity to change his own life.
Right. Right. I think there are people who I think we're doing this spiritual progression in waves
Yes,
so
I
that
agree.
not everybody's having, spiritual psychosis at the same time, but, or, overwhelm of some sort. But people come along, they start learning their stuff, they start shining their light, that spreads to other people. And then those people spread it. And it's the old, marketing 5 by 5 rule, which was basically, you meet somebody and you share your information with them. They share it hopefully with 5 people. Those 5 people share it with 5 people. And, hopefully we help the world, person by person, bit by bit.
Yeah, the way it was shown to me once in meditation is I was shown an image of the globe, right? And these
Yeah.
little pinpoints, like lighted pinpoints, like a stick pin, in different areas around the globe. And as each stick pin would light up, it would connect to the one over here, and then it would connect to the one over here, and then it would connect to the one over here. And it's like a network
Oh, that's
of
neat.
awakening. And to your point, I agree. I think there are waves of this. Like the wave that I was on happened in 2020. That was a huge wave. COVID pushed a lot of people into awakening. There was another wave that came like a year or two later after that that also had a huge push. As someone in this field, I can always see it when my I start having more and more people booking sessions. I can literally physically see the wave come forward because people are so confused. Um,
Mm,
I really believe that Generation Alpha is the one that's going to change things. I think all of these waves of awakening have been coming forward, like clearing the shore, clearing the shore, clearing the shore. And here comes Generation Alpha who's being born far more connected than any other
Yeah.
generation before them. They are not losing their connection when they grow. They have zero F's to give. I'm going to tell you right now, they are taking no crap from anybody. And they are all about the planet. They're all about understanding. They have literally had the internet at their fingers from day one. They have access to all this information. These are the kids that are going to come forward and affect real change in our world. But in order for them to do that, we had to clear the path. Our journey is just as important, because without us, they couldn't have they can't start this. We're the rocket fuel for the new booster, so to speak, I guess. At least
Aw, I
that's
love
how
that.
I see it.
That's kind of like a mom, like perspective in a sense. Like, I'm helping to rear you up and I fuel you and go get them, babe.
Yes, exactly. I tell people a lot. They ask me, well, what is it that you do? Right? Like, what is it like for you? And I said, well, you have to kind of look at me like you're learning how to ride a two-wheeler. I'm going to hold on to the back of the bike until you get your balance. And then I'm going to
Yeah.
let go, and you're not even going to know I'm gone, and you're going to take off on your own. I'm a frequency modulator. I help you bring your frequency to where it needs to be. And then I give you a kiss of good luck and you go off and do it on your own. I'm not going to cure you. I'm going to help you see your own power so you can cure yourself. There is no sustainability in any healer telling you, I'm going to heal you. There's no
Right.
sustainability in that. You have every opportunity, ability, and tool to take care of yourself. You just have to believe it's possible. And that's where I come in, or you come in. We hold the door open and say, I got you, friend. Let's go.
And I think that when I picked my TikTok name, I was trying to learn how to use TikTok, and there was marketing people that were saying this, that, and the other thing. And I have always sort of struggled or gone back and forth with what name should I use, what title should I make up for myself, because I crisscrossed between many different paths.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
this one marketing person was like, well, you have to describe what you do and put that in your profile name, your username. So I was like, well, all right, that's it. Heather the Healer has a little alliteration to it. I do help people to heal in the beginning. I think sometimes when people have been through extreme trauma, they really just need support. Now, this is part of my personal story. But many years ago, I was stuck and I couldn't figure out, these different things. I had repressed a lot of memories, and I was so hurt that I really needed support. And that's what I stumbled into Reiki. Like literally, like I don't know how I stumbled into it, but I found these people and they said, come, try it out. And I was like, okay. It was astounding. So I started doing that, and then I started looking at all these other things. So I incorporate a lot of different healing traditions and tools, but I know that sometimes I believe the same that you do, that the idea is to help somebody get on their 2 feet or on their 2 wheels and rolling and with the tools so that they can continue to heal, learn, and grow and move forward on their own. But that sometimes we need some help, especially in
Oh,
the beginning.
100%, 100%. We come from from a physical environment where we've been taught that you need other people to support you. So it's
So that,
impossible to go from that type of understanding to one of complete independence. That's not sustainable. It's like Esther Hicks says, you can't jump from one train going 1,000 miles an hour to another train going 1,000 miles an hour. You have to slow down. That's the role of the healer, right? That's the role that you play for them, is you slow down the train, you give them some tools, you say, let's talk about this. Let me read the instructions to you, because they might seem like they're in Chinese right now. I'm going to read these instructions to you. I'm going to help you unpack this. I'm going to show you where
great
the Allen
description.
wrench is, and then I'm going to let you do it yourself. But I think a big
Plant your own
misconception.
garden.
Yeah, I think a big misconception that I've had from a lot of clients is they come to me and they expect me to just outright give them the answer. And that's not how I work. I mean, I don't know how anybody else works, but for me, I I'm not here to do that for you. I'm here to help you figure it out. I mean, I'm here to talk to you and pull it out of you. It's kind of like being a
Yeah,
teacher at the university. A student would
right.
come to me and say, I'm struggling with this problem. And I'd say, okay, let's sit down and talk about it. But if I give them the answer, they're never going to remember it. So I sit down with them and say, okay, you have a patient with diabetic this and this and this. What are your first thoughts? Okay, well, let me tell you why that might not work. And what are your other ideas? And then you walk through it, and the look on that face of that
Yeah.
student when they recognize that they figured it out is priceless. That is what I'm chasing. I love
Because
that
then they
feeling.
can figure out other ones that come in that are not the same problem,
Yes.
you need to know how to problem solve and how to reach for tools or draw to you tools,
And think
techniques,
outside the
whatever it is.
box. And think outside the
Right.
box. Think outside the boxes you've been given.
Yes.
So the physical world, we live in a dualistic universe. The physical world is very much about demonstration. Prove it to me and I'll believe you. It's about labels. Tell me what this is so I can
Mm,
understand. It's about pattern recognition. These are all things that we have
yeah.
evolved as human beings to keep us physically safe in a world that wants to eat us, right? We have lions and tigers and cars that want to run us over and tropical storms and all this stuff. Those things are important in the physical world. In the metaphysical world, simply by virtue that the universe is dualistic in nature, if you follow
Yeah.
that logic, then logically, the spiritual world must be the opposite of the physical world. It is not about labels. It is not about show me, then I'll believe you. It is not about any of those things. It's about faith and recognizing that all these terms they cross over. Healer is a term that people want to define as one thing, but having this conversation is healing. Sitting with someone and reading cards is healing. Giving them a book
Yeah.
is healing. It comes in so many different forms. And I think
Mhm.
making that transition can be really disruptive sometimes because you have to do
Yeah.
some mental gymnastics to think in a different way, but it can be very freeing when you finally let yourself do that.
Yes, that's well said. Well said. And I love that, that you emphasize, um, well, I'm gonna put it in terms that I use, but same thing, creativity and growing. So I talk about soul garden and giving yourself flowers, even if somebody else doesn't, but tending to your own garden and letting there's a wildness and a beauty and a non-linear way about the beauty of life with a capital L. And when we let ourselves flow with that, then these, miracles happen. And yeah, they are miracles. They are
Yeah.
miracles. And yes, it's okay for us to accept them and receive them and use them for ourselves and in our lives. And I think one of the things about your journey from, that I'm gonna overgeneralize a little bit, like the rigid university structure to a very free flowing and incredibly productive and successful alternate life in a way, business is that you let yourself flow and
Yeah.
receive incredible. Okay, there we go.
Okay. All
Thanks for
right.
coming back. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened.
no problem.
Sorry.
No problem. I think do you just have the regular Zoom?
It's like I don't remember which level it is. Some kind of professional business
Oh,
thing.
then
But
you should be fine. I don't know why it cut you off.
oh
Weird.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, it shouldn't cut me off. It because that's why I made sure to get the higher level, so it can
Okay.
go on and on. But
I don't
anyways,
remember what we were talking about.
yeah, it was super interesting. And then like from my end, you froze. You were like looking at your microphone, like thinking about something, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. What is it?
Yeah, from my end, you froze too. And I'm going, hello, hello. So I don't remember what we were talking about exactly, but yeah, I mean the general gist of it is the spiritual awakening is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process. It is a misnomer to have the word awakening in it because it's a
Yeah.
becoming, not an awakening. Um,
Yeah. Yep.
and it is a very slow process, like peeling an onion. You're going to cry and you're not going to like some of it, and it's going to stink sometimes, but it's really the only way to truly understand yourself, is to be okay with some of
Yep.
your weird stuff. And maybe it's not really weird. Maybe you're just different somehow. The world is meant to be
Mhm.
viewed through a prism, not through a single light. and we're all parts of that prism.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Absolutely. I like that, becoming part and continuing to grow, and also, looking at the stuff that maybe you shoved to the back of the closet without even realizing. Some
Sure.
people, call that shadow work or whatever, but I think
Yeah.
I think I
Well,
agree
and
with you
those
that that's an
shadows then
important
become
part.
your triggers. Those shadows then become the things that trigger you the most when you see them in other people. It's a sign of an unhealed wound. And as much as I love people very lovingly, your triggers are your problem. It is not my job to tippy toe around all the broken glass that you have dropped here. It is your job to pick it
Yeah.
up so that it's not a problem anymore. And wouldn't it feel better if you didn't get triggered when those things happened, right? Instead of avoiding the trigger, deal with the trigger. What is it trying to tell you?
Do you have a lot of people that you've encountered that say stop triggering me or
Yes,
whatever?
all the time,
Really?
all the time.
Really?
Yes. And
Oh
I
wow.
will lovingly tell them, your trigger's not my problem. Why do I have to change my life so you feel more comfortable in your discomfort? Why don't you deal with the trigger so that when this happens again, you aren't suddenly caught off guard and your whole day is ruined because I said something you didn't agree with? Why would you give me that power? Wouldn't it feel
Yeah.
better if you had the
Wow.
power to contain yourself? You know, that's the whole point, is to figure out, why do you have this trigger? When people get triggered and they don't recognize that, if you actually sit down and think about your triggers, there is a common theme to these triggers. And if you can figure out what the common theme is, that's the nugget of your problem. You get down into that nugget and you start figuring out, for 30 years of my life, felt pushed to the side, underestimated, and not listened to. And so now I feel triggered when someone says, what? Or whatever, or I feel like they're not listening to me, but maybe they had a different circumstance. Maybe they were distracted. It's not your problem. It's not their problem that you have an issue with that. The problem is that you need to figure out why you have an issue with it and take your power back. When you
Yeah.
let that control your life, you are giving it away hand over fist. And that's nowhere to live your life.
Do you see a common pattern with the people that are, the stop triggering me type of people?
Accountability. It's usually
Is
the
there,
biggest problem. They don't want to take
well, yeah,
accountability for their own
that's
stuff.
one of the core, yes, yeah, because they feel overwhelmed and they don't have the tools and the
Well,
strength to do it.
yes and no.
Mhm.
Sometimes what I find more
Oh,
often is they don't want to do it. They want you
oh,
to change because it's easier if you change. So it's largely unconscious for most of the people I work with, but the
wow,
discomfort that we know, we will always choose that over the discomfort we don't know. That's part of survival of the fittest. That's part of the human species surviving, living in Africa,
right.
like it's part of that. But until you choose to move through your discomfort, it will continue to rule you. That's just how it works.
Are they usually your clients, or are these people that are like in your day-to-day sort of life?
I don't get so many clients that tell me I'm triggering them. They
Because
may
usually that's why they're coming to you, right? They're like, help me figure this out.
well, yeah, for a lot of clients, they come because they want to understand their triggers. For some
Yeah.
clients, they come and they get triggered and they want me to just fix it. And I don't even know what that looks like to some people. Like, they want me to just snap my fingers and it's not going to bother them anymore. I do have
Mhm.
a lot of clients that, I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but when I tell them that this is a journey, it takes time. You didn't get here overnight. You're not going to get out of here overnight. You have to be graceful with yourself. I wouldn't say most, but a big portion of my clients don't like hearing that, because we
Yeah.
want instant gratification. We want to feel better right now.
Pills.
Pills, right. And it doesn't work that way. That's not sustainable. Just like when you're losing weight, if you lose weight too rapidly, you will put it right back on. If you make sustainable changes in your diet and your exercise and your relationship with food, it changes things. It's the same in all aspects of your life. You have to allow yourself some grace.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting comparison. I find that removing the toxins and providing yourself with the nourishment that you need regardless of whether that's food or social interaction or exercise or, whatever it is, that then, your body, your mind, your spirit can heal because they're designed to heal. So it's about taking out that which is bad. Maybe, you
Yeah.
got a thorn stuck in your foot or something. You need to take it out before your foot can heal.
Yes.
But then you also have to provide yourself with the nourishment of whatever form it is, and then you can do it. But that is all a you thing. You can get help. Somebody could take, it's hard to reach your foot yourself
Mhm.
sometimes. It can help for somebody to take that thorn out.
Or for
Um,
someone to explain to you how to take the thorn out. Because I think a lot of
right.
people feel frustrated because they don't know what to do first. It's very overwhelming when you start to recognize that you have these patterns of behaviors and beliefs that are dictating your life and you don't want them to.
Ugh,
And it can feel very overwhelming. Well, it's not, how do I even start? Where do I even do this? I can't do it. I can never finish this. It's not about doing it all at once. It's one thing. Pick one thing. Just pick something and move in that direction, and it gradually leads you there. You can't do it all at once, you know? I don't like I don't like it when people feel like they need to give up because they can't do it all right now, you know?
right, right. You do what you can do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that leads to both sort of exercising the muscle of doing and self-confidence that you can do something, and then you going on.
Mhm.
Um, my personal experience with food is I did everything that everybody said was the right thing to do, but it was wrong for me. And I was obese. And when I figured out what that freaking thorn was, I pulled it out. And yeah, it did hurt. It was hard. And it did take sustained effort, but the weight loss was rough, and it stayed off until I had surgery and implants, blah, 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 so I'm
Right.
still recovering from that. And it's, the food's supply. So
Yeah.
for me, it was like trying to find food that was healthy for me was really hard. And it got harder and harder and harder over the years. But I went from, so I'm 5'2", and I hopped off the scale. This is like 15 or so years ago. Um, when it was going over 199 and it was gonna cross 200 pounds, which for anybody who's not familiar with, that whole thing, that's highly unhealthy. And I didn't like it. I felt terrible. I wanted to get rid of this excess weight. I wanted to be able to run again. I wanted to have energy. I wanted to dance and move. And, like I'm naturally athletic. And I love that. That's something that's important to me. And I couldn't do it with like the cement cage on me. It felt like a prison. And then when I discovered what the right foods were for me and what the wrong foods were for me, like, 2 pounds a day came off. I lost 50 pounds in 3 months. And then I lost a total of 70 pounds, and gained muscle, and I got into
Yeah.
incredibly good shape. So I always want to encourage people that your thing may not be what everybody else's thing is. Like, for instance, like unfortunately, or whatever, I need to eat meat, red meat. It has to be really high quality grass-fed beef. Otherwise, my body just doesn't work. And then my brain
Sure.
doesn't work, and my energy drops, and that leaves me vulnerable to attack, all sorts of things. If I can figure out how to not kill anything, including plants, in order to live, I'd be
Right.
thrilled.
But I mean, I think, yes, but I think that the earth is structured in such a way to provide for us everything we need to be successful. I think there are things that are here on this earth that are here to nourish us. It is the spirit in which you take it from the earth that matters.
Mm,
When you have
huge.
mass agriculture and you're raping the land and you're destroying the resources, that is completely different than having a plot of land that you lovingly care for, that you turn the
Yep.
soil over, that you rotate the crops, that you plant what's good in season, that is a very different vibration. That food will
Very.
taste different. That
It
food will
does.
sit different in your body. That food will
Yep.
nourish you. So I try to be as clear as I can with people. I'm not against eating meat. I'm just not. I'm not at all. I am against eating something that makes you feel bad. So if
Yep.
eating meat helps you feel great, yes, do it, but do it in a conscious way. Choose your,
Very.
like do it in a conscious way. Don't just
Yeah.
blindly consume, but listen to your
Yeah.
body. I think there, again, too many labels. People ask me if I'm a vegetarian. I'm not really a vegetarian. If we order pizza and there's pepperoni on it, I will eat it because pepperoni's good on a pizza, but I don't seek out steak. I am what I call an intuitive eater. Whatever my
Yep.
body feels like it needs that day, that's what it's going to get. It tends
That's
to
the
be
way to do it.
vegetables, fruits, grains, and a lot of carbs. But that tends to be what it is. But every once in a while, I want a chicken sandwich because I feel like I need the protein or something. But I'm
Yep.
never going to, I'm done with putting exclusive labels on stuff, because in spirituality, everything is fluid, everything
Mm.
merges together. And the more you try to make it a distinctive label, the more frustrated you will be. If you just let
Yeah.
go of it has to vegetarian or meat
Right.
eater. If you let go of that and just let
Right.
it be natural, you get rid of the unwanted stress that you're creating
Right.
yourself. It's just part of it. And that goes with everything.
Right.
Don't be worried about am I a clairsentient? Am I a clairaudient? You are all of those things in varying degrees. It just depends
Yes.
on you. Stop
Yeah.
worrying about the label. Why do you need the label? I understand it is easier when you're talking to someone to say, I'm a clairaudient, but I'll tell you right now, 50% of the people I talk about have a misconception about the definitions of those anyway. So
Yeah.
you're saying something that they probably are making up a definition for in their head anyway. So be careful about labeling yourself. When you
Yeah.
identify as a label, you have just put a sticker on you that says, I am this
Constricts
thing.
you.
Yes. When you're
Right. It
having a
constricts
bad
you.
day, you don't want to use the words, I am depressed. You want to say, I'm having a sad day. I'm having a depressed moment. I am
Yeah.
experiencing depression. You don't want to label yourself as that because it's hard to get out
Yep.
from underneath that label.
Yep. Like just like with a dis-ease of any sort, it is not yours. It is not you.
Yes.
So be super words are important. Words are spells. Words tell your
Yes.
body and your spirit what's happening and what's up. And yeah.
Yes. What
So
you say matters. And whether you say it out loud or not, it still carries a frequency. So be nice to yourself.
yeah, that's,
You hear everything you say, you hear
that's
everything you
right.
think. So, be nice.
Yeah. Start with yourself at the very least.
Yeah. My business partner, Heather, used to tell people all the time that before you berate yourself for a mistake you made, I want you to picture a 5-year-old version of you. And if you could really say those things to that 5-year-old version, go ahead and say it. But if you would feel bad saying that, then you need to keep that, not let it go, because it doesn't need to
That's
be there.
such a good way to say it. Such a good way to frame it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Just
I
have some
think
compassion for yourself.
yes. I think our 5-year-old selves are in their, waiting to play, waiting to come out because, be our real selves. And also need a little, encouragement and maybe some boo-boo cream or whatever from the stuff that they survived. But like, at the time we didn't get to take care of. I think that's great that your partner, Heather,
Yeah.
helps people with that. I think we have to help all of
Yeah.
ourselves and all of ourselves in a way.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
and it comes in waves and rolls and patterns, and it's very astrological, weirdly enough. And I think, okay, people shouldn't feel bad if something that they've worked on in the past comes up again, because there's this PJ's theory, which is basically that we learn or heal, from my perspective, in spirals or
In a
very messy
spiral.
lines.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, like, even if you were back here at some point, or like, it seems like you're here on the circle, but you've gone up, and maybe you're looking at it from another perspective. So it's a little bit, you do grow, even if it feels like you're like, fucking, I thought I'd handle
I
that.
know, right? Why am I triggered by this? I thought I worked on this. Well, triggers are deeply planted and it takes many layers to get through them. I have found that for myself, there have been many triggers I've been able to fully let go of. Done a lot of work on that. It's taken years, but I have been able to do that. But there are some triggers that I still have that no matter how much I work on them, they're still there at least a little bit. Like the biggest one for me is if I call a number of a business and I get an automated machine. I hate that. I hate that with passion. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And it is a trigger for me. It will make me angry. The minute I hear it, I'll get angry. And I know that about myself. I have done as much as I could to work on that, but because I can't pinpoint necessarily where it comes from, it's hard for me to let that go. So in the moment when that trigger happens, what I do is I stop and I go, okay, I see what's happening. I'm getting triggered. Okay, stop it, stop it, stop it. And then I give myself a second and I'll just push my way through it. The triggers get less intense. The more you recognize them and acknowledge them, the less they
Yeah.
control your life. You may not completely get rid of them, but you will have more control over them. And then they are not the ones dictating your day. You are. And that's a big switch.
And you may find that the more you work on alleviating the intensity of the trigger, that eventually you get to a point where it still comes up, but all of a sudden you'll have a knowing, and you'll have a connection to, oh, that's where that came from. But part of that is the safety within yourself that you've created with handling the anger, fear, hatred, the
Mhm.
intense emotions that are scary
Yeah.
at some level. So that then this thing it's safe within you for this thing to pop up, like the real, the dandelion that's been down there, and there it is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Well, is there anything else that you want people to know about, or ways to connect with you that you want to share?
Sure. So I have a website. It's consciouslyerin.com. On that website, you can schedule a private session. You can read more about me and you can link to my Patreon page. My Patreon page is where I'm most active. I use it kind of like a Facebook page. I post a lot of stuff. There are several membership tiers from free up to $60 a month, depending on what you want. But the most popular tier is $5 a month, and that gives you access to once a week. An article comes out on Wednesday connecting science and spirituality, access to the town hall live meetings where you can ask questions about metaphysics live when we're on air, access to the community, access to a library of growing PDFs. It gives you a lot of stuff. So if you are seeking or looking for different tools, my goal with Patreon is not to simply show you what I agree with, but to show you all of the options because I want you to make your own decision. And there are many articles that I write about theories that I may not necessarily agree with. Like, for example, the uniplanetary theory is one that I wrote an article on that hasn't come out yet. But that theory is not one I necessarily subscribe to, but I think it's important for us to talk about these things because these ideas are coming from somewhere. And if we can find the
Mm-hmm.
common thread, that's where discovery happens. So there's a lot of information there. Private sessions are available through the website, like I said. What I do is I'm kind of a frequency modulator. We are going to talk much like this. And the way it works is I'll start asking you questions, you start answering, and I pull information out of you to help you have your own realization. After the session, everybody gets emailed a nice little summary so they remember what we talked about because I won't remember.
Yeah.
So that way you can work. And I try to make it so everybody has some sort of action to take when they're done.
Mm-hmm.
I have a podcast that's coming out where I interview different types of teachers and healers. My podcast is very intentionally not about the story of the person that's giving the interview, but more about the tool they have to offer and how you can use it for yourself. I think we've gotten too comfortable telling our story and justifying while we're here. I have decided I'm no longer going to justify to anybody how I know what I know. I just know it. And it's up to you. You can take it or leave it, you know? And I think that helps with my confidence, because the more I feel like I have to prove it to somebody, the less I believe it. So that's kind of the perspective the podcast comes from. I'm going to tell you about astrology and numerology and all these tools from the perspective of a tool, not, you know, this, you should do it because it's magic, but this is how it works. This is the person that uses it. This is how they've used it in their lives. And this is how you can use it in your life. It's like more like a how to than anything, you know?
Yeah, I think that's great.
But that's the main things that people can find me on. I have a book on Amazon. It's called The Soul Quest. It is a self-guided life coaching program designed to help you do a life coaching program that is guided with journal reflections, exercises, worksheets, information, all kinds of stuff. You can find that on Amazon. And I'm constantly working on new stuff. So just keep an eye open, because you never know.
And you're going to have a retreat coming up.
I'm hoping to. Yes. It's in the air.
Work.
I'm working on the retreat. I'm working on the university. I'm working on building new classes. I found my paper. So the classes that I'm working on building right now are, all right, Foundations of Energy, Energy in the Body, Ancient Systems and Modern Insight, Alchemy of the Self, Inner Dialogue and Identity Shifting, Meditative States and Energetic Perception, Bridging Science and Spirituality, and then a Practical Alchemy Lab. Those are the things that I'm working on right now for the university that I want to create.
Those are awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But people can always reach out to me through the website if they have any questions. I'm here to help.
Cool beans. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Talk soon.
Okay.